I used to think the worst thing in the world was forgetting, but I was wrong. The worst thing is when something remembers you, remembers everything, and decides to play it all back for you. My name is Rachel, and this is the story of the year I moved back into my childhood home after my mother passed. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a way to save money while I sorted through her things and my own grief. The house was a 2-story Victorian on a quiet, tree-lined street, full of the dusty sunlight and faded floral wallpaper of my youth. It felt safe. It felt familiar. But from the very first night, there were details that felt off. The smell of my mother's lily perfume would drift through a room ID just aired out. ID find my old toys arranged on the stairs exactly as ID left them for school one morning 20 years ago. And the floorboards in the hallway would creak in the specific 3-step rhythm of my father's walk, though had been gone for a decade. I chalked it all up to grief, to a hypersensitive mind drowning in memories. The mind plays tricks, right? It was just me, alone in a big, old, echoey house. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found in an old family home? A letter, a toy, something that just felt like it was waiting for you? Let me know in the comments. The escalation was slow, a dripping faucet of unease. It began with sounds. Not bumps in the night, but precise, familiar sounds. The soft crackle of the vinyl record player from the den, playing a jazz standard my parents loved. The sound would last for exactly 1 minute and 17 seconds, the length of the record's first track then stopped. ID run in, and the player would be cold, unplugged, a layer of dust undisturbed on the lid. Then came the tactile sensations. ID be reading in bed and feel a distinct, cold pressure on the edge of the mattress, as if a cat had jumped up. We never had a cat. One afternoon, washing dishes, I felt a small, warm hand slip into mine. I yanked back, soapy water flying, my heart hammering against my ribs. The air in the house grew heavy, not with a presence, but with a specific emotional residue. The kitchen would suddenly feel thick with the anxious silence of my parents' last argument. My old bedroom would be saturated with the humid, tearful despair of my teenage heartbreaks. After a particularly bad night of hearing phantom dinner party laughter from the empty dining room, I decided enough was enough. I called a friend, Lisa, a pragmatic geologist who laughed at ghost stories. She came over with wine and sage for the hippy-dippy cleanse, she joked. We opened all the windows, burned the sage, laughing as we wafted smoke into corners. We blared pop music to disrupt the silence. That night, with Lisa snoring on the pull-out couch, I felt a profound sense of relief. The house felt lighter, just a house. The false safety was intoxicating. For 3 days it worked. The smells faded, the sounds ceased. I began to think it had all been in my head, a psychological purge facilitated by ritual and friendship. I started boxing up my mother's clothes, finally feeling ready to move forward. The climax didn't come with a bang, but with a whisper. On the 4th night, I woke up to the smell of ozone and wet soil, the scent of the storm that had happened the night my father left. My bedroom door was open. From downstairs, I heard the sound of the television, the specific blare of a late-night talk show from the 90s. I crept down the stairs, my hands slick on the banister ID slid down as a child. The living room was dark, illuminated only by the flickering gray light of a TV that wasn't plugged in. On the screen was static, but the audio was crystal clear. My father's voice, raised in anger, my mother's pleading sob, a young girl's terrified crying my crying. It was a perfect audio recording of that awful night. I stood frozen, a spectator to my own past. Then the audio shifted. It was my voice from last week, talking to Lisa on the phone, confessing my fears about the house. Then my voice from yesterday, singing in the shower. It was compiling new memories. The TV screen went black. From the hallway behind me came the 3-step creak of my father's walk. I couldn't turn. I felt a breath on the back of my neck. Not cold, but warm and smelling of my mother's lilies. A whisper, woven from 100 fragments of family voices, my own included, seeped into my ear. It said, "We are the house. We remember everything. You can't leave. You're part of the collection now." I screamed and ran. bursting out the front door into the cold night. I didn't stop until I was at the neighbors, pounding on their door. I sold the house. I sold everything in it. I moved into a new build apartment with white walls and no history. The lawyers and the new family, a nice young couple with a baby, think I am just a grieving daughter who couldn't cope. Maybe that's true. But last night, as I was drifting off to sleep in my silent, memoryless apartment, my brand new phone, still in its box on the charger, lit up. On its screen, without being turned on, was a live feed. It showed my old childhood bedroom, empty, in the dark, and from its speaker, tinny and soft, came the sound of a little girl crying. My crying. The feed is still there. I can't delete it. I think it followed me. I think it's always been with me. The house doesn't just remember where you lived. It remembers who you are, and it's always listening, always collecting, making sure you never, ever forget. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you felt that chill down your spine, you're not alone. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. It helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the unexplained. And tell me in the comments, do you believe places can hold memories, or are we just haunting ourselves? Stay curious, but maybe leave the past where it belongs.